They'd walk over, get there, go across, and Tareha was their speaker. And he says that, he was speaking, and he was not young, but he wasn't old, and he was already speaking. Eh? He says, yeah, my cousin, he was a good speaker. And they go over there, and even Papa remembers, this is before, so it must have been within that first year, but he remembers quite vividly going to Kakanui Araporero walking. And the young ones would be let on the horse, and the old ones would walk. Yeah, take them a whole day. Yeah, neat thing. And hongi, hey, go on the boat. You fellas would have seen them. Just go one tide out, and then when it comes in, when it's on the change, he'll go across the front of Tāporapora, and as soon as she starts coming in, then he'll head up into Kakanui. Even Uncle Smithy done a couple of trips with him. He was only a kid, and he says that fella was tough. He says it was a big flat bottom truck, it was huge, and it was heavy. And what they would do is do shortcuts when it was low, it's getting low, and you have all the sandbars, and he would go across, and then they'd walk, and he would carry it on his, he had a little bag. Uncle Smithy would carry the bag, and he'd carry the boat on the shore, and then get to the next water, and they'd go across. And then if it was windy, Uncle Smithy, Hongi would give him his big trench coat, get him to stand up and be a sail. But he said, yeah, he'd turn up down there at, there or either this way, maybe take a couple of days if he choose to, and turn up at ki ana te poti te kai, ki ana te kai.
His name was Hongi. Because he used to be places where nobody even expected him. Yeah, that's my namesake.
Oh, pono.
Yeah.
Kia ora. Awesome. Yeah, I need to collect more photos so we can have some, more of a photo sort of thing. Collect some of those photos of Uncle Smithy and Auntie Kiwa. Yeah. Just like got some, Because I think there's only one of Nuku. These fellows got him with a guitar or fiddle. And then Uncle John got that one with a guitar, eh?
I got one of him
and the singlet. Oh, yeah?
Yes, one I had behind the kids.
Oh, choice. Yeah, awesome. That's the one. I'll look after them. So we can hold them in the whanau. So we're able to show our, moko punas.
Do you have any photos?
Uncle Nuku.
Just one, eh?
Yes, he has
the one standing up. Real fine looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, that's a beautiful one. Top line. Oh, fuck the number.
Get a bit. I know, I should have just grabbed it. He was looking at me. He was just a short of that fellow.
Your father told, the old man, he told. Hongi wasn't that tall, no?
No.
Papa wasn't
He
either.
was big.
Yeah.
He was strong. And even Uncle Nuku was.
Uncle Nuku was strong.
Oh no, he's the strongest in the whole of the kaupapa.
That reminds me of that one there.
He done all the oyster farm himself, all his rocks.
Is that right? Ah yes, I heard he moved them by himself, eh?
Yeah. On the barges.
Remember him and Uncle Nuku used to go netting at night. come back early hours of the morning with all their fish and flounders.
Yeah.
You didn't know where they were, but they were out there somewhere.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Big dogs. Good pig hunter. Your man right there, good pig hunter.
Kapea. Yeah, I heard they were both very strong.
Very,
You know, undo a motor, bend over and lift the whole motor up.
Oh,
No sweat, brute strength thing. Boom!
I think that's what killed them too, I think.
Yeah, that's what Nana was saying.
Yeah.
Those meant they were too hard on themselves. Nuku, just shorts and bush singlet,
yeah, that's the one.
wet,
All
never
the
stop.
time.
Never stop, work, rain, keep working, come inside at night time, hang it up by the fire, you know, and then wake up, put the wet singlet back on, out in the rain, next minute pneumonia.
Yeah, they.
Same with hongi, in the bush, wet, just bush singlet, come home, fire, you know, hang it up, next day put it on, pneumonia, keep working, boom.
Because I still, yeah, they were pretty young when they.
Yeah, I think Dad 51?
Yeah.
And then Hongi's 49. Or was it
Yeah.
around the other way?
Yeah, Nuku was the eldest, eh?
Yeah.
One of them died at 51 and one of them died at 49.
Yeah, 51.
Yeah, oh, Hongi's 49.
Yeah, yeah. Because I remember when I lived 40, 51
They were just too hard on themselves.
Yeah,
See?
yeah.
You know, you can do that in your 30s
Yeah.
and, you know, early 40s, but then you gotta,
Slow down.
yeah, and you gotta keep warm, you know. You know.
By horse. Go by horse on a Sunday and come back on a Friday night. By horse or stuff.
Yeah.
The old man said they used to have bull team.
Oh, yeah. Well, kia ora. Awesome. Yeah, Ben Theory spent time with the old man, eh?
Yeah,
He
yeah.
was telling me he had a horse was a Horace.
Horace.
Yeah, that's Horace.
Horace, eh? And he reckons, yeah. He says, you, ara koe te, te tiki te hoiho. Me no ka hoki mai a Ben. O e kore te hoiho e rani moi ngau. Right. Whakapūrenga te te keti, haere te koe te muri, ai koe ka whiu mai ki waho nei. And he reckons, and he's without a word of a lie, ka tua nuku, at the cake. Owa mai a Horace, ai beeline kia nuku. A boom and then nuku. Oh! I can't make it te rai o Horace. And they stay, you reckon they stand there? And then dizzy, kahinga, and then Nuku get on the back and kick him. Boom! Man, I love.
No, he wasn't a sympathetic person.
Yeah.
His dad would even count, they got stuck in the bar.
Yeah, my taku krani.
Language flying all over the
Yeah.
bar, mate.
Yeah.
But when he got to the house, it was just business.
Yeah. Me mai taku krani mama, me mai taku krani mama. Oh, ai taku brother Anuku. Oh, aroha ki ana karani. Ka haere tau ki te kāinga Anuku. Wana kau, kua koreke ngā hiole, kua piko, kua whati ai te kukume. He says, oh, he was cool. Cool.
Yeah. If he didn't do it, he'll do it.
Yeah, Polo man. I heard he was a hard man.
The old man said, yeah, they had a fight one time. Somewhere, they're sailors, they.
Oh,
Big fella.
oh those
Big
Americans.
American.
Yeah.
And checked up with them. This fella stood and punched straight at him. Stop. Just one hand. And the fella tried to pull back, he couldn't even pull back.
Too strong, yeah. Too strong. Wow. Yeah, I heard. Uncle Corey was saying, you know, a couple of carloads come up to have a fight. Yeah, they all leave. Bruised and broken bones. Just Nuku by himself.
Yeah.
2 carloads, boom, boom, boom. And they hop back on their car and leave. Yeah. No one can beat them up.
I don't have a memory, eh?
Eh?
I don't have a memory. It's only what people say.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, I never met the people, but I just
Yeah,
heard all the
yeah.
stories.
Me too.
And they reckon hongi could swim like a fish.
Oh.
Charlie Connolly tell me that they would hop on when they were young on the punt to go over to this, was there a shop or something?
Yeah, yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And they'll go over paddling,
Yeah.
flat stick, and hongi would swim. Boom, boom, just as fast as the boat all the way. He said they never seen anybody swim like hongi could, like a fish.
I got a question.
Oh,
Took
yeah.
How the Kapea related to the Kipo whānau?
To the,
Tauwhare? Kipa.
I don't think so. Now, there was a old man, because I investigated how they ended up in Rukumon and why. Because as far as I could find, we didn't have whakapapa. And I met, there was this man brought up with Nana Buddy and Heta under their father Timika. And his name was, you might know him, he's from Rukumon, he's part of the Kingmakers there at Rukumon. And his name was Hori, Moi Hurori, he was one of their main speakers. He died in the early 2000s. And I spoke to him. And yes, those are my brothers, Buddy and Heta. And it pissed me off when Tahuna come and took them, because then I had to do all the work. Look after the young ones. And I says, how did they end up here? He says, oh, there was a spiritual man that was, I forget his name, but he was going around the place, and he ended up in Rukumwana. And Timikara and them followed him there. And they ended up staying there and working. So they don't whakapapa. But he remembers, but they do whakapapa to Whaingaroa, of course, through my korero. And he says, oh, I says, aye, because Eva Rickard is a cousin
Yeah.
to Mum and them. See, in the 19...
The old lady.
Yes,
Yeah.
through Koraipu Mauriri. The Koraipu Mauriri had another brother, boom, comes down to those kereopas, you see. They're that famous surfer and all of that, you know? They're cousins. And they had a...
We need something about it.
See, because Nana Buddy organised, they went to a hui in the 1980s. I don't know if Mum went, but a whole lot of them from Kakanui or the Kapeas and that, they went to there in the 1980s to rekindle that whanaungatanga, you see. And yeah, so that's that. And that old fella told me, and I was telling her, oh no, we actually come from Whaingaroa. And I said, oh, we're related to Eva Rickard, because she's a kereopa, Eva, kereopa. And says, and then he smiled and he nodded his head and he laughed and he says, oh, now I understand why my whāngai father, which is Buddy's and Heta's real father, Timikara, now I understand why Timikara sent me over there to look after, to be the cup of tea boy, and you know, as they get older, when they get sick, someone's sent to look after. And he said, now I understand why I was sent there to look after the old man, kereopa, which is Eva's, must be grandfather or something. Eh? So yeah, just a long way to answer your question, no, because we don't whakapapa, but we ended up there. And in the Urupa at Rukumwana is this man, Timikara, who is Te Wingaro, these fellas' grandfather. Their grandfather's younger brother, and their mother's cousin, Clarkie, and those ones in Tauwhare, they're all first cousins to the old lady here. Yeah, but they just settled there, eh? Yeah. Maybe married in, maybe some of their wahines from there, which might, their kids are then related to this whānau you're talking about.
Yeah, because the Kapea whānau buried in the old Urupa
Oh.
behind Tauwhare.
Whanau.
Because there's one year right behind it.
Oh,
There's
wow.
old Urupa buried there, as well as the one that's around the corner
Okay.
at Tainui Urupa.
Because I hear there's like a tomb
Yeah.
at Tauwhare.
Yeah.
Now, this lot, brother, sisters, and this Te Motu, the other brother I talked about, Iriapa, he ended up living in Tauwhare.
Oh, yeah.
And he was buried there in a tomb. Now those puatahi whānau know all the details to that korero. I've never been, but No, you've just confirmed with me. And there's a whole lot of, there's Mohopunas, there's heaps of, there's Ediapa family there, eh? Yeah, they descend from, they're not Nahis, they're called Ediapas. Rather than taking, these are all Nahis, they maintain that name, but their brother, Ediapa, their children took their father's name,
Oh, just like the
Ediapa, like,
Kapea.
yeah, you know, just to cause a bit more confusion. So all those Ediapas are alpha known as too, through our Nahi side, through Te Motu. Yeah, so we've got relations all over the place.
I know.
Yeah, all different
And it's
names.
good, it's good.
That's why they marry one
No, hopefully some of them are rich.
Oil fields.
Pretty sure there's some minerals in Orua Whanau just in the Raharuri land just waiting to be found.
A lot of limestone.
Yeah, well there's definitely none down Te Ringaringa, that's for sure. There's definitely none down Te Ringaringa.
Nah.
So do you go around and speak, about all
Oh, no. It's just quarter that I have. I don't like to go around giving seminars. I just, very close with the whānau, with you fellows, and especially, Phyllis has always been very, very supportive to our family. She's always there and saved our ass so many times. And just love Phyllis and you fellas are awesome. And all the Ashby side, whenever we come out here, it's always Uncle Billy and Uncle Jesse and and Uncle Sully and Phyllis that are always saving our ass in the kitchen and helping us out. We're constantly indebted, and all you fellas always with Nana and Papa, and when Papa was alive, always really close to him.
He never spoke very much.
No, he's a quiet fella.
So quiet, eh?
Very
He's just
quiet.
Just a mahi man.
Auntie Helen then.
Just work.
Yeah, just at the mill, just mahi. Eh? Because they couldn't speak Māori, they couldn't speak English, eh? He told me when he got back, see, because Ruku Moana and Tauwhare, down in Morrinsville there, it was Tuturu Māori. Eh? And so when Papa come back here and he was 5 or 6, all the old people, of course, were hardcore Māori, but all his cousins, or Charlie and all of them, they were bilingual. But him and his family, they were not bilingual. They only had one reo. So when he went to Kura, he is the only one out of the kids that couldn't speak Pākehā. And in his generation, of course, in the older generation, there was all these fellas too. But these especially Te Wingaro and Harata's kids, they were Māori tuturu. And half of them they didn't go to school anyway. But Papa went to school, probably one of the only ones out of the lot that went to school for quite some time. But he got to school and he couldn't speak a word of English, and his mates were sort of half bilingual. But his older cousins and his older brothers, sisters, Taraha and all of them, they were all fluent. But his own generation, no. So when he went to school, he soon worked out that it's not a nice place to be if you can't speak Pākehā, because you just get a hiding every day. And so what he'd do is come down the hill here and he'd jump in the bush and then wait there all day, and until the kids start to go home, then he'd jump out and walk back with it. Until after a few months, then he got to Reo Pākehā, and that was it. Then he started going to school, and he says it really stuck in his head. And he stuck to Te Reo Pākehā all the time, and the only ones he would speak Māori to was his mother and the old people, because his mother couldn't speak Pākehā. And then they gave him the name.